Somewhere out there, right now, someone with half your talent is living the life you're still dreaming about. Not because they were chosen, not because they were lucky, because they believed they could. That's it, that's the gap. Between who you are and who you could be. Not genius, not timing, just belief. I know what it's like to look in the mirror and not see someone worth betting on. To stand in front of your own reflection and feel like a ghost in your own life. You smile, you perform, you wait, and still, you don't move. Because no one told you this part. Most of us aren't stuck, we're waiting for a sign. A cheer, a rescue, but no one is coming. And that isn't the tragedy, it's the gift. Because if no one's coming, then maybe you were always meant to be the one. There's a story I heard once, quiet and strange. A man sits alone in a dark room. He's afraid. He prays. He whispers for someone to open the door. For years he waits. Until one day something inside him breaks. He stands. He walks to the edge of the dark and reaches forward. And the door had never been locked. How many of us are still sitting in that room? How many of us were told our limits so many times we stopped questioning whether they were real? You weren't born doubting yourself, that was taught. That was echoed. That was handed to you by people who didn't know what they were holding. And maybe now it's time to return it. Because this is where your story begins, not with a victory, but with a question. What would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? And what if failure was never the real fear? What if the real fear was becoming someone so powerful, so honest, so radiant, that you no longer recognized the life that kept you small? You were not built for that shrinking. You were not made to echo back the limits handed to you. You were made to rise. So, one last time before we go further, what would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? And what would happen if you stopped waiting for someone to open a door you were born to walk through? In an old Chinese legend, there's a river known for one thing: resistance. Its current is brutal, its surface roaring. And at the far end of this river stands the Dragon Gate, a waterfall so powerful it's said no creature can pass it. None except one. The story goes that a school of koi once swam upstream. Most turned back. The current was too strong. The climb too high. The others laughed. You're just a fish. But one stayed and leapt and fell. And leapt again. For years it tried, alone, silent, ignored. And then one night it soared. The gods, moved by its defiance, transformed that fish into a golden dragon. No longer bound by the current, no longer swimming. Now flying. That's not a story about fate, it's a story about belief. The koi didn't wait for proof it could fly, it just kept leaping. And if you're standing on the edge of your own waterfall, waiting to feel brave, you might wait forever. Albert Bandura, the psychologist who changed how we understand motivation, once said, "Belief in your ability does not guarantee success, but lack of belief guarantees failure." You don't have to be fearless, you don't have to be sure. Because belief isn't the absence of doubt, it's the decision to leap anyway. And here's the paradox that no one tells you. You won't believe in yourself until you act like you do. And you won't act like you do until you believe. But something in you already knows, something deeper than the fear. Something older than the voice that says you can't, and that something is still trying. You've been swimming upstream your whole life, trying to become something more, something free. So if you're tired, good, that means you're close. Because belief is not granted, it's chosen. The world doesn't transform you into a dragon. You leap long enough, you already are one. Chapter 3, The Cracked Mirror. There's a moment no one talks about, not in the speeches, not in the highlight reels. It's not the moment you win. It's the moment you break, you leap. You try, you believe, and nothing happens. No applause, no transformation, just silence. That's where most people stop, not because they failed, but because belief without evidence feels like betrayal. I know that moment. The one where you ask yourself, what if I was wrong about me? Where the mirror shows you every flaw in high definition. Where the fire flickers and you wonder if it was ever real to begin with. This is where the myth falls apart for most, because no one tells you belief doesn't always feel like power. Sometimes it feels like grief, the grief of the person you used to be, the grief of the story you told yourself that didn't come true yet. The grief of fighting every day to hold on to a dream the world keeps trying to talk you out of. Psychologists call it cognitive reappraisal, the ability to reinterpret your pain. Not erase it, not sugarcoat it, but look at it again. To say, this is not proof I've failed, it's proof I've begun. Femita Ayanbaku was 11 when she lost her leg in a car accident. She could have disappeared into that moment. Most would have. But years later, when she was handed her first running blade, she looked at it and said, I love this thing. I just need to learn how to use it. That's belief at its rawest, not loud, not poetic, just real. It's what happens when the mirror cracks, and instead of looking away, you look through. There's a Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times, get up 8. But it doesn't say how hard it is to rise that 8th time. How much it takes to get up, not as the person you were, but as someone who no longer needs to be perfect to continue. That's what belief is. Not the certainty that you will succeed, but the defiance that says you'll keep showing up even if you don't. The cracked mirror doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're beginning to see yourself clearly. Not the version shaped by doubt, not the mask you wore to survive, but the one who's been waiting to be seen. The one who doesn't need proof, just one more reason to try again. And sometimes that reason is you. Chapter 4, The Quiet Flame. You're not supposed to shout, not at first. Real belief isn't loud, it's not a roar. It's a flicker in the dark, just bright enough to keep going. That's where the story begins again. You think it takes a grand moment, a stage, a breakthrough, a miracle. But it starts with something smaller, something quiet, something no one else hears but you. Channing Muller was 26 when her heart stopped. Twice, no warning, no explanation. Most people would have stayed in survival mode, grateful to walk again. But she didn't want to just survive. She whispered, I want to run. That's the kind of belief no one sees at first, not even you. It doesn't feel bold, it feels foolish. But every time she laced her shoes, every breathless step, every second her body said no and her soul said yes, she was building something. By the time she crossed her 8th marathon finish line, the world finally saw what she had been becoming all along. Neuroscientists call it neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through repetition. Each action is a vote. Each choice is a signal. Each step is a brick in a path you didn't believe was yours to walk until now. You don't wait for belief to show up. You show up and become someone who believes. Every time you choose effort over avoidance, every time you speak when your voice shakes, every time you try again when quitting is easier, you are not pretending. You are practicing. That's what no one tells you. Belief isn't something you find, it's something you rehearse. And the more you practice it, the more the world reflects it. That's the power of the looking glass self, a psychological truth we often forget. We become who we believe others see. But the world is just a mirror. And mirrors don't move first. You do. That's why belief matters. Not because it guarantees success, but because it's the first thing the world needs to see before it says yes. You think you're waiting on a sign? No. The sign is waiting on you, so light the match, let it flicker. Let it burn long enough to warm your own hands. And when you're ready, step into the world like you belong, not because you're finished, but because you finally started. And that quietly changes everything. Chapter 5. The day the world believed you back. Something shifts. It's not loud, it doesn't announce itself with fanfare. But one morning, without warning, you stop apologizing for who you are. You speak and your voice lands. You walk into the room and you no longer ask for permission to exist in it. You see yourself not as a question, but as a presence. That's the moment the world adjusts. Not because it finally sees you, but because you finally started showing up as someone who believes. That's the principle psychologists call the looking glass self. We become who we believe others see. But what no one tells you is this: the mirror doesn't move first, you do. And when you hold yourself like someone who belongs, the world responds. Femita didn't become a champion when she crossed the finish line. She became one the moment she decided her story wasn't over. She trained, she showed up, she trusted her stride. And one day the world stopped seeing the prosthetic and started seeing the power. You've probably heard that confidence comes after success, but it doesn't. Confidence is what you practice in the absence of applause. That's the paradox. You won't always feel ready. But when you act like you are, when you walk like you belong, you teach the world how to treat you. Kabir, the mystic poet from India, once wrote, "All know the drop becomes the ocean, but few know the ocean becomes the drop." You are not a fragment. You are not waiting to be completed. You are the whole tide, already rising. And yes, there will still be days when fear returns, when the old mirror fogs, when the flame flickers low. But belief doesn't disappear, it deepens. And the voice you've been waiting for all along is yours. The world isn't waiting to give you permission. It's waiting to reflect what you already decided. And you're not pretending anymore, you're living it. Chapter 6, this is the moment. We began with a question. What would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? Now ask it again, but not from the edge, from the center. From the part of you that's no longer waiting for certainty. Because here's what we know now: belief isn't the reward. It's the raw beginning. It's the quiet fire that you feed when no one's clapping. It's the cracked mirror you stop hiding from. It's the match you light for no one but yourself. You've carried it. You've grown it. You've walked through the silence with it in your chest. And now you don't not just believe. You are belief made visible. That's what this was always about. Not motivation, not hype, but transformation. The kind that starts in the dark. The kind no one can give you. The kind no one can take away. You're no longer seeking validation, you're practicing embodiment. And now there's only one thing left: bring it with you. Into the risk, into the room. Into the thing you said was too big for you. Into the life you almost settled against. Because that belief you've been building was never meant to stay small. It was meant to set your life on fire. And if something stirred in you, even a flicker, don't let it fade. Leave something behind in the comments, in the world, in your own hands. Not for the likes. Not for me, for you. For the future you're brave enough to walk into now. Because belief, real belief, doesn't live in words. It lives in decisions. And this is your moment. Breathe in, stand tall, and step. You were never just a drop. You were always the ocean learning to move.